When you finish this video, you're probably going to Google two words: Chris Kremers, Lisanne Froon, because what happened to these two Dutch students remains one of the most disturbing mysteries ever documented. In April of 2014, Chris Kremers and Lisanne Froon, both college students from the Netherlands, traveled to Panama for what was supposed to be an exciting adventure abroad. They planned to spend several weeks volunteering, improving their Spanish, and exploring the beautiful countryside around the mountain town of Boquete. By all accounts, the trip was going perfectly. They were taking photos, meeting locals, and sending messages home to friends and family. Nothing seemed unusual. Then on April 1st, they decided to go for a hike. The girls left their host family's home with a small backpack and took the family's dog with them. The trail they chose was popular among tourists and considered relatively safe. At first, everything seemed normal, but later that day, something happened. The dog returned home alone. The girls did not. At first, nobody was overly concerned. Maybe they had gotten delayed. Maybe they had decided to explore longer than expected. But when they still hadn't turned out by the following morning, panic began to set in. Search parties were organized. Volunteers, local authorities, helicopters, and rescue teams searched the dense jungle environment and area. Days passed, then weeks, and despite extensive searches, there were no signs of either girl. It was as if they had just simply vanished. For nearly 10 weeks, investigators had no meaningful leads. Then everything changed. A local woman who lived near a river turned in a blue backpack she claimed to have found near her property. Inside were some of the girls' personal belongings. What investigators discovered inside that backpack would raise more questions than answers. The backpack contained both girls' cell phones, a camera, sunglasses, cash, and other items. Oddly, many of the contents appeared surprisingly intact, despite having supposedly spent weeks exposed to the elements. When investigators examined the phones, they uncovered a troubling timeline. Just hours after the girls had started their hike, emergency calls began appearing in the call logs. Calls to 112, calls to 911, again and again and again. Over the next several days, the girls attempted to contact emergency services a total of 77 times. Not a single call was successfully connected. The mountainous jungle terrain appeared to prevent them from getting a signal. As the days went on, the attempts became less frequent. Battery life was running out. Hope may have been fading. Then investigators noticed something even stranger. Several days after the first emergency calls began, someone repeatedly attempted to unlock one of the phones using incorrect PIN codes. The attempts failed over and over. It was impossible to know whether one of the girls was injured and unable to remember the code, or whether someone else was trying to access the phone. No one could say for sure, but the most unsettling discovery was still waiting: the camera. When investigators reviewed the photos, the first images seemed completely normal. The girls were smiling, posing along the trail, enjoying the beautiful scenery. Nothing looked wrong. Then the photographs suddenly stopped, and for days, there were no more pictures until over a week later. In the middle of the night, between roughly 1 a.m. and 4 a.m., dozens of photographs were taken in near total darkness. The images made little sense. Some showed rocks, some showed vegetation, some appeared to capture random sections of the jungle. One photograph showed belongings carefully arranged on a rock. Another appeared to show the back of one girl's head. Some investigators believe she may have been injured. Others aren't convinced. To this day, experts continue debating what exactly the photographs reveal. Were the pictures being used as signals for rescuers? Were they attempts to illuminate the darkness? Or do they document something else entirely? No one knows. Months later, researchers began finding human remains scattered across the area. Some bones belonging to the girls were recovered. But even those discoveries deepened the mystery. Reports indicated that some of the remains appeared unusually bleached, leading to endless speculation and debate about what happened in that jungle. Natural causes, an accident, exposure, foul play. More than a decade later, there's still no official explanation that answers every question. No definitive cause of death, no universally accepted theory, just fragments of evidence, disturbing photographs, failed emergency calls, and a mystery that refuses to go away. And if you, like most people who hear this story for the first time, you're probably reaching for the phone to Google those two names, Chris Kremers and Lisanne Froon. Rest in peace, girls.